So yes, today with me in church I've got Roger Amos, who's up here today because he's just had a new book published. There you go. So tell us, Roger, what's the title of your new book?
What was Jesus hoping to achieve?
What led you to write about that?
Well, when we read the New Testament, the Gospels, and we look at the ministry of Jesus, it's not always obvious what he was hoping to achieve. Sometimes he seems to be attempting to reform the Jewish religion. For example, in the Sermon on the Mount, that's classic reforming material, calling the people back to a wholehearted commitment to God. But at other times, he seems to be starting a new religion. For example, he told Peter, "You are a rock, and on this rock I found my church." So when we look at the things that Jesus said and did, sometimes there seem to be conflicting ideas as to what Jesus was hoping to achieve.
So you've tried a different approach.
Yes, I argued that surely Jesus' ministry must have been a response to something in his environment, in his community, something that needed remedying. And so I investigated the social and economic circumstances of Galilee at the time of Jesus' ministry, hoping that I would find in them clues as to what it was that Jesus was trying to rectify.
And what did you discover?
What I discovered shocked me. The simple fact was that I'd been a Christian for 50 years. I'd been an ordained minister for the last 42 of them. And yet I had no idea until then that at the time of Jesus, the Jews in Galilee were undergoing appalling suffering.
What kind of suffering?
Well, there was widespread unemployment, poverty, hunger, debt, and crime. In fact, once you become aware of that, once you read the Gospels bearing that in mind, you find that it helps you to understand a lot of the things that Jesus said, especially in his parables.
Okay. What caused this suffering that people were going through?
Well, I think the blame has to rest with Herod Antipas. He was the tetrarch, effectively the king of Galilee. And he had this ambition to modernize Galilee and to give it spanking new cities, new modern cities to rival those in Judea. To do that, he needed a lot of money, he needed a lot of manpower, and he got this by taxing the ordinary people of Galilee and confiscating their land and selling the land in particular to new settlers whom he encouraged to come in from all over the Roman Empire.
Had anybody else come to that conclusion?
You find many scholars have come to that conclusion recently, but it takes time for new historical ideas to permeate from academia into the wider public. And oddly enough, there's a lot of evidence supporting this in the Gospels. But our English Bibles don't always help, because sometimes they tend to play down the difficulties, the less palatable aspects of life in Palestine at the time of Jesus.
Okay. Can you give us an example of that?
Yes, I'll give you a couple of examples. Jesus frequently mentions slaves, but our English versions say servants. Now, I'm quite sure that the gospel writers knew the difference and meant what they wrote. So slavery was rife in Galilee at the time of Jesus. Similarly, there were lots of beggars in Galilee at the time of Jesus. But where the original Greek says beggars, our English Bibles tend to say poor man, or just poor. And this can make a very big difference to the meaning. For example, when Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," what he meant was that the blessed, those who were going to go into the kingdom of heaven, were those who recognized their own utter inadequacy and came to God begging for mercy on the grounds of his grace alone.
What about John the Baptist? Was he a big influence on Jesus?
Yes, he most certainly was. In fact, he was Jesus' mentor. You could say that Jesus originally set out to be a purely political activist, improving conditions for the people of Galilee. But it was John who showed him that the condition, the underlying problem in Galilee, and indeed throughout the world, was spiritual. And it was that which needed remedying first.
So going back to the title of your book, what was Jesus hoping to achieve? What did he hope to do about all of that?
Well, for that, you'll have to read the book. But I'll tell you one thing. The book does explain why we see those two different ambitions.
Okay, if you're not letting everything away, did Jesus actually achieve what he was hoping to achieve?
Not his political ambitions, no, but he certainly caused the Jewish authorities acute embarrassment. In fact, that's why they had him crucified. But then, when you see what he achieved through the cross and through his resurrection, well, that was far more than he could ever have imagined, I think, at the start of his ministry.
I understand that your book was originally a PhD thesis. Is it intended just for theologians, students, academics?
No, well, it's true. It was originally a PhD thesis, although sadly I was unable to finish my PhD. I had to withdraw from the program. But the thesis was nearly finished. The book is a very heavily edited version of the thesis, and it's intended for anyone who is seriously interested in Jesus. You don't need to have academic qualifications to read the book.
Well, thanks for that. Where can people buy the book?
Well, it's available from leading online booksellers and also direct from the publisher's website. That's Whip and Stock.
Thank you, Roger, for sharing with us.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Matt, back to you.
Thank you, please. Well, we're going to stand again and worship in a moment, but I kind of just want to add something very quickly to that, which is, Roger said, if you want to know more about Jesus, and if you were sat here thinking, no, get out. No, don't applaud that, Colin. No, the reality is that all of us here need to know Jesus better. And anything that can help us do it is a worthwhile thing to say from the front. So if you were sat here thinking, why are we doing a book review? Why are we interviewing an author? The reason is because all things are tools that enable us to get closer to Jesus, to know him better. And with that in mind, please stand if you are able. We are going to sing.